How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Hello and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, would be very happy to have you on the show. Don't forget to text the word Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. With this war happening, and let's just call it a war because that's what's going on here, it is important, I think, to keep you up to date. And as events warrant, I am sending more information out just to keep everybody up to speed on the events of the day happening as there's play-by-play. Now, I want to turn my attention away from this war situation to a different story. There is a regular pattern now with progressives in the United States where they insist that there are things that are not happening that people on the right say are happening. They deny they're happening, and typically the United States press corps circles the wagons and insists these things are not happening until it becomes inescapable and people realize they're happening, and then the left accuses you of being a bigot for opposing those things they said were not happening. In the Northwest United States, in Washington state now, they are advancing polygamy. A state court has given legal protection to polyamorous relationships. This has happened in Canada, where a gay throuple has been given the right to adopt children. And you know, when we in the United States had gay marriage imposed on us by the United States Supreme Court, it wasn't a Democratic decision. In fact, most states had voted against it, but Anthony Kennedy saw better. We were told that's it, that's done. Don't believe the nonsense. And now here comes the throuple being legalized in the Pacific Northwest, being given legal sanction as a lawful relationship. We were told that marriage was between two people, and now suddenly marriage can be between anybody. Transgenderism, of course, was denied as being a real thing, and then suddenly, why do you hate it, you bigot? It doesn't affect you until people started losing their jobs for being opposed to it, for embracing real-world pronouns instead of the pronoun games of the progressive activists who changed their pronouns. Time and time again, these things happen. And one of the things that conservatives have said was happening was school districts indoctrinating children and then encouraging those children to transition behind their parents' backs. Many, many people in both the American press corps and on the political left have denied that this was happening. School districts, teachers inducing children to transition their genders. Elizabeth Mirabelli versus Rob Bonta has been released from the United States Supreme Court overnight, a per curiam decision. It is not a final decision, but certainly tells you who's going to win here. I'm just going to read you from the court. It was pretty clear Amy Coney Barrett is the one who wrote the decision because she has a subsequent decision under her name reflecting the per curiam. A per curiam decision is when the court, without naming the author, releases for the court the decision. This case began in the United States District Court for the Southern District of California in 2023 when two teachers sued seeking an exemption from their school district's policies regarding student gender. During litigation, the school district claimed that state law, as interpreted by the California Attorney General and Department of Education, required it to adopt these policies. So the teachers added state officials as defendants, and parents of California school children joined the lawsuit as plaintiffs. Relying on their own experiences and guidance documents issued by state officials, plaintiffs alleged that California's policies permitted disclosure of a student's gender transitioning at school only if the student consented. Plaintiffs claimed that these policies violated their rights under the Free Exercise Clause of the First Amendment and the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. Two of the parents, plaintiffs John and Jane Poe, have religious objections to gender transitioning, but were not told of their daughter's school by their daughter's school when she began to present as a boy and used a male name and male pronouns during her 7th grade year. In parent-teacher meetings, no one told the Poes about their daughter's transitioning or referred to her using the male name and pronouns that were used at school. At the beginning of their daughter's 8th grade year, she attempted suicide and was hospitalized. Only then did the parents learn from a doctor she had gender dysphoria and had been presenting as a boy at school. Just months after being discharged, the Poe's daughter was rehospitalized and held there involuntarily because she was at risk of self-harm. At a new school in 9th grade, she once again began identifying as a boy. Contrary to the Poe's instructions, teachers and school officials continued to use a male name and pronouns for their daughter, citing their obligations under California law. The Poes have placed their daughter in therapy and obtained psychiatric care for her. Like the Poes, plaintiffs John and Jane Doe object to gender transitioning, but since 5th grade, their daughter has sometimes identified as a boy. When their daughter was in 7th grade, the Does confronted the school principal about their daughter's transitioning. They believed the school was using a male name and pronouns for their daughter behind their backs. The principal explained that state law prohibited the school from sharing information about a child's transition with the child's parents without the child's consent. The Does believed that the risk of leaving their daughter in that school was too great, so they transferred their daughter to a new public school because sending her to a private school is financially and logistically infeasible. The Does have also placed their daughter in therapy. In 2005, defendants asserted that the guidance documents on which plaintiffs have relied were no longer operative and that the claims against certain state defendants should be dismissed. But the state has promulgated a new required training curriculum that similarly directs teachers not to tell parents about their children's gender identity without the child's consent. Defendants then withdrew their mootness argument and the district court declined to impose sanctions. Later, plaintiffs sought class-wide relief. I want to tell you what the facts, beyond what the court says here, have found. This isn't the court record. These are the documents of the case. These are the undisputed facts. At least 2 of the children now say they were induced to transition by school teachers and counselors. In one of the schools, in one class, 7 kids embrace new gender identities at the urging of a teacher. These are the undisputed facts. It wasn't that the kids chose to transition, it's that a teacher convinced them that they had gender dysphoria. And then the school did not tell the parents. It was schools instilling in children distrust of their parents, distrust of their biology, and creating mental health problems for kids. And it came to a head when one of those kids attempted to kill herself. Parents, they told you this didn't happen. They said this was nonsense. They said it was not true. Here we have the undisputed facts. The undisputed facts. Schools were not only keeping gender transitions secret, they were inducing the children to transition. And in the process of keeping it secret and pushing the kids to transition, one of the kids tried to kill herself. This is not the final ruling. What the minority said, the three progressive justices, in fact, Justice Kagan suggests that she actually might be on the side of the parents, but she thought they needed to bring this to final resolution instead of doing a short circuit, which I thought was notable language here. The parent applicants are likely to succeed on the merits under a straightforward application of Supreme Court precedent. That's what Justice Kagan wrote. They probably are. Amy Coney Barrett wrote this: gender dysphoria is a condition that has an important bearing on a child's mental health, but when a child exhibits symptoms of gender dysphoria at school, California's policies conceal that information from parents and facilitate a degree of gender transitioning during school hours. These policies likely violate the parents' right to direct the upbringing and education of their children. Remember, what the Democrats say is that the children belong to the state. The children are not your children. That is now the official policy of the Democratic Party. You don't believe me? They actually put it in their platform in 2016 when Hillary Clinton was running for president. Remember, they also, that one time they booed God at the Democratic convention. They had in that case as well made the statement, we all belong to the state, that parents operate on behalf of the state to raise kids. Supreme Court precedent is that kids belong to parents, not the government. Democrats believe kids belong to the government and are just placed in the care of parents. It's an actual communist position. It's what Karl Marx believed is now what the Democratic Party believes. And in the Democratic Party, they have advocated the idea that the state can encourage children to gender transition and keep it quiet from the parents. It's madness. It's the Democratic Party. It's the progressive left in this country. Again, it is really important for you to understand 7 children in one class, in one school, with one teacher, were convinced that they were in the wrong body and began to gender transition, and the school covered it up. Prohibited by law from telling the parents. Not only am I deeply bothered by all of this, I am horrified at the number of people who think it's okay. I'm horrified. The state of California is defending the policy. A girl tried to kill herself because of the policy. A girl tried to kill herself. And the argument from the left is that, well, if we change the policy, it could be more harmful. What's more harmful than a girl trying to kill herself? We have a rise in this country of violence from the progressive transgender crowd. Saw someone over the weekend with the shooter at the bar in Texas. Said, oh, thank God it was a traditional terrorist, not a trans shooter. It's becoming not just a joke, it's becoming a real thing in this country. Interestingly enough, there's a growing body of evidence that not just the rise in identifying as trans, but the rise in identifying as gay, lesbian, or bisexual is a social contagion. There are truly people who identify as gay, as lesbians. There are some who identify as bisexual, but the rise in data shows that actually there's a lot of it is a social contagion. A professor has shown that young people are walking away from the LGBTQ identity. There's been a 21% decline in young adults who identify as gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender in just 3 years, a 21% decline. For a time there, it was a lot of young women. And in fact, young progressive single women are still more likely to identify as lesbian than any other class of people. The number of kids in 9th grade and younger in this country who identify as transgender is virtually zero at this point. There's been a pushback from the kids who even the kids realize this is crazy nonsense. It is the woke progressive activists who have doubled down on it, and it is the woke progressive faculty and politicians who are trying to normalize it and up the game. There aren't enough kids transitioning. They got to do something. And what they're doing is they're keeping it quiet from the parents. And the Supreme Court has said that is unconstitutional. Children
belong to their parents, not to the state. And parents have the right to educate and raise their children with the moral values and ideas and beliefs the parents find appropriate, not the state. By the way, I want to reemphasize to all of you, it was Amy Coney Barrett who made this decision. Please stop with your hatred of the woman because she doesn't transactionally give you what you wanted. You just got a big win from her. Welcome back. Let's go to the phones here. Brian in Jacksonville, Florida. You're up first. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Eric. Yeah, I was wondering what prompts these teachers to single out female students to say that they're a boy. And, why aren't they teaching the math and science and English? And I don't know what, because they have a short haircut or something and they just say you're a boy?
So, we've got a couple of these situations, but actually it predominates they target boys. To try to convince boys to become girls. And what you find oftentimes is that the teachers and counselors and even the moms who do it to their kids have deep hostility towards men. And so that they want these boys to become girls. They think they can do it. But yeah, they do target girls as well. Oftentimes it's girls who they're socially awkward, they're maladjusted, they're shy, very introverted. They target them and suggest, well, maybe it's because really you're a boy. They don't actually teach. There's no reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's pure indoctrination going on in many of these classes. And by the way, if you follow, for example, Libs of TikTok, very often highlights these teachers on social media bragging on TikTok about how they encourage kids to be their true selves. It's deeply disturbing, predatory stuff. And they do prey on these kids. Now, I need you to stick around here because I got a phone call I want to take when we come back from Ponca City. And then I also need to tell you that, the 3 police officers in Austin, Texas, who shot the Islamic terrorist over the weekend, they have to go before a grand jury now to avoid being indicted by the progressive prosecutor for killing a man. I'm not making that up. I got the details when we come back. First, I need to tell you about Swiss America. I want you to go to SwissAmerica.com today, SwissAmerica.com/Eric. You can get their free report on the secret war on cash, but also they've got a lot of information on how the Iran conflict is affecting global markets, oil prices, precious metal prices. They're the trusted precious metal dealer in this country for 40 years, rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. They want to educate you about the secret war on cash, and they also want to get you educated about global monetary policy, using precious metals as part of your portfolio, why the change in the dollar matters and how it's going to impact you and banks around the world. All you have to do is go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric today. You can get the report for free, the Secret War on Cash. You can also learn about economic and monetary policy in the United States and the use of precious metals as part of your portfolio. They've got it all. They keep it up to date. Click on the news tab, get their blog, bleeding edge stuff. You can also call them at 800-289-2646. Just tell them Eric sent you. You can text my name, Eric, to 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646, or go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric, ERICK. Message and data rates may apply. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. I want to go to Melinda in Ponca City, Oklahoma. Welcome, Melinda. How are you?
Yeah, so I'm fine. Thank you, Eric. I've been a long-term listener, but just recently subscribed. I think you carry just a very well-balanced show.
Thank you.
Displaying all views. So I just really appreciate your show. Yeah, I wanted to comment that gender dysphoria, if you look it up, it's listed in the DSM as it's an intense, distressing, and lasting discomfort caused by a mismatch between gender identity and physical sex characteristics. It's listed as a diagnosis to facilitate access to health care, such as gender-affirming therapy or surgeries, but also to allow basically access to medical and psychological care. So it's considered, a disease just like depression or anxiety. And along with just this gender dysphoria comes depression and anxiety. So the schools, you would think a teacher would have to report if they felt like your child was depressed or anxious, or they were or looking at problems that the child might be having that could lead to suicide. They should be responsible for that. And by denying that, they are denying the parents' right to know that their child's depressed or anxious or could possibly, be at risk for suicide. I just don't see how the teachers in the schools cannot be held responsible for hiding that information from the parents. I mean, it's listed as a medical diagnosis that causes harm and distress.
Right. Well, and the teachers should be required to do it. And just remember that the fact pattern of the lawsuit is that it was 2 teachers originally who sued, saying that they wanted an exemption from their school policies for exactly the reasons you brought up. And the school said, it's not us, it's the state. The state actually has a law that won't allow us to do it. And they were bound by the state law. So in addition, they got qualified immunity for not doing this stuff. What we now know from the lawsuit, as parents came forward and got involved in the lawsuit, is that there were teachers who were participating, who were willfully engaged in gender transitioning kids in school without parental consent, which is it's wild. It should offend all of you. And I also want some of you to understand here that if you have the opportunity to fund scholarships to private Christian schools, you should consider doing it to make available private schools. We have a state-funded program in our state where we can send our tax dollars that we would otherwise pay to the state into a fund as a tax credit, and we get that tax credit on our taxes so that we can fund scholarships for private schools so kids can get out of public schools. And there are a lot of parents who can't afford to get their kids out of public school. And a lot of you who do sometimes get deeply unsympathetic because you made the sacrifices, blah, blah, blah. Therefore, everyone else should. You don't live in these people's shoes. Many of them are poor. They can't afford to homeschool. They can't afford the private school. Their kids have to go to public school. And those are the kids who are preyed upon by the progressive left in these schools. And what you can do is you can put your money where your mouth is and contribute to classical Christian school scholarship funds or state scholarship funds to get kids out of these public schools where this is happening. Around the country, it's becoming a problem. It is a problem even in my state. There have been multiple of them. We had a public school gym teacher who decided to show kids in a gym class for Valentine's Day a video about a same-sex relationship among 2 kids in school. And when one of the teaching assistants questioned it, the gym teacher in Cobb County said, I guess I'm going to get in trouble now. It happened in a public school in Cobb County, Georgia, a gym teacher showing a video to kids in PE on normalizing same-sex relationships. The parents would have had no idea that the parents didn't consent to it. It was a gym class, but this is what the guy decided to do. You got to be vigilant. Over the weekend in Texas, 3 officers took down the terrorist who was a naturalized American citizen from Senegal, who was wearing a tracksuit that was of the Iranian Islamic Republic flag that said on it, "Property of Allah." They have released a picture of the deceased terrorist wearing this tracksuit that was in the style of the Islamic Republic flag that said "Property of Allah" on it. In Austin, there was an effort a few years ago to defund the police department. The police department has been badly undermined in Austin, in Travis County. And now you need to know that the 3 police officers who killed the terrorist stand to be indicted by a grand jury in Austin, Texas. You, like me, are probably scratching your head. If you're a longtime listener to the program, you have heard me in the past talk about the Wren Collective. The Wren Collective is funded by the Soros organization. It is a far-left police reform group, criminal justice reform group. The Wren Collective exercises, I'm reading now from a law enforcement guide on who they are, exercises undue influence on the criminal justice policies of Soros-funded district attorneys. They control the messaging, the writing policies on everything from bail to police-involved shootings, and even interference in homicide and police conduct cases. The Wren Collective offers consulting services to prosecutors for free because it's funded by the same donors who bankrolled the progressive prosecutors. Based on public information requests totaling over 50,000 pages of emails and text messages, campaign finance filings, and tax documents, this study demonstrates a handful of left-wing social justice organizations with significant ties to campaign donors holding immense influence over prosecutors through the Wren Collective. Donors and activists exercise behind-the-scenes control over the offices of 40 progressive prosecutors, including in Travis County, Texas, shaping their policies, public communications, even their legal decisions. The private consulting group Wren Collective LLC provides free policy, media, and legal support to district attorneys underwritten and recommended by the same prosecutors' campaign donors and political allies. The Wren Collective exercises influence in over 40-plus elected district attorneys in 22 states, impacting 48 million Americans. They consult with prosecutors in secret, working without publicity or billing. They coordinate prosecutor policies and legal strategies with shared donors and activist support. They serve as campaign consultants to prosecutors and their allied PACs. They develop and implement prosecutorial policies on sentencing, probation, and the death penalty. They craft public and media communications, including press releases, op-eds, and interviews. They interview in criminal case decisions and drive legal strategies. They earn millions in grants and fees from activist campaigns and left-wing billionaires, and they accept taxpayer-funded sole source contracts after offering previous free service contracts. They have operated in the state of Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida. Almost every state has an impact. 22 states, 48 million Americans affected. One of them is Jose Garza, who is the district attorney in Austin, Texas, who entered in a non-disclosure agreement to work with the Wren Collective in 2022, signed by the top deputy, Trudy Strasburger. One of the policy areas is that when there is an officer-involved shooting, the district attorney has agreed to the Wren Collective demand that a grand jury hearing be summoned and that the officers involved in the shooting be investigated for possible crimes. The grand jury will be formed by the district attorney and will hear the evidence that the district attorney presents. So these three heroes who shot and killed the terrorist who was killing Americans at a bar in Austin will be forced to go before a grand jury led by the Travis County DA seeking to prosecute them for an officer-involved shooting. Now, we can presume in this case that the district attorney will decide that what they did was heroic and try to take credit for it, but they will still have to go for a grand jury hearing. Doug O'Connell, who is a former Special Forces colonel and a state and federal prosecutor, is an attorney who notes that the Austin Police Association has asked his team to represent the three police officers who took down the terrorist killer. They will face a grand jury hearing. It is the process directed to the Travis County DA by the Wren Collective. The Wren Collective and the Travis County DA have entered into agreement that every time the officers are involved in a shooting, they are to be brought before a grand jury and investigated for possible criminal charges. This is absurd, absolutely absurd. In Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, the incoming progressive governor, has decided to put illegal aliens ahead of the people of Virginia. Bill Malugin is noting the insanity in Virginia today that there is a criminal illegal alien, and Abigail Spanberger has decided they will not cooperate with the federal government honoring an ICE detainer on this illegal alien who has 30 prior arrests, including rape, who is accused of murdering a woman at a bus stop. Abigail Spanberger says she wants ICE to get a judicial warrant, which isn't possible because there's not a federal crime. Murder and rape and the other charges, they're all statutory crimes at the state level. And so the federal judicial warrant cannot be obtained by ICE because no federal charges have been charged against this illegal alien. And so Abigail Spanberger is refusing to release an illegal immigrant into the care of ICE because ICE has no federal warrant to come after the criminal who has 30 prior arrests. Steve Descano is the Northern Virginia district attorney who has agreed to take a plea of mental insanity of a sane criminal who clearly everyone notes is sane, but the DA doesn't want to prosecute this man who went into a person's home and stabbed the man to death at night. It turns out that the man who was murdered was a prominent conservative, and the progressive DA has decided to just say, it was mental insanity. That's why the man got murdered. They continue, progressives, to side with the criminals and the illegal aliens. This is wild. Police in Texas have to go before a grand jury and hope to not get indicted. Police in Virginia are not allowed to hold a person convicted of rape who's now accused of murdering someone. They have to let the guy out of jail before ICE shows up. In New York City, it's no better. They have chosen to side with the criminals. They have chosen to allow a accused murder suspect out of jail to avoid having to deal with ICE rounding the person up. It's as bad in California as it is New York, as it is Virginia, as it is Texas, these progressive prosecutors. Many of them are funded by George Soros's group. You know, Alex Soros is demanding European nations to stand up to the United States and Israel for bullying poor old Iran. The dude is the worst Nepo baby with the worst mind and business. He's a progressive agitator, and he's going to drag the Democrats down, and he should. Friends, in Texas, the police heroes are going to a grand jury. And in Virginia, a man accused of murdering a woman is being let out of jail so that ICE can't grab him. This is Democratic progressive policy. The same people who want to gender transition your kids without parental consent are on the side of the criminals, not on the side of the citizens. Absolutely wild that this is where we would be in this country, but this is where progressives are. And now, you know, there's a real worry among Democratic mainstreamers that this war with Iran could radicalize the left. They have over 30 members of Congress in the Democratic Party are being primaried by opponents who have raised over $100,000. Could drive them further left and give the Republicans a real opening in November to say these people are nuts and against the United States and against the citizens of the United States. And, you know, Trump should do it. If Joe Biden could run the 2022 campaign saying Republicans are a threat to our democracy, Republicans should run the 2026 campaign saying Democrats are a threat to you. And we got the facts on our side to show it. Hello and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. Let me jump to Tom's phone call here. Welcome, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing okay, Eric, and I hope you are. And I really appreciate your show and the opportunity.
Thank you.
Item 15 is on this document is seize or take control of one or both political parties. Item 26 is present degeneracy, promiscuity, etc., as normal, natural, and healthy. Item 40 is attack the legitimacy of the family. All of those things you basically touched on earlier in the show. Now, what document am I reading from? And I think it would be useful for everybody that listens to find this document, read it, and share it. And it's in the congressional record as placed there in 1963 by a Congressman Herlong of Central Florida. The name of the document is 45 Goals of the Communist Party to Destroy America. So if you just do any kind of search on that, you'll see it. I know you probably are aware of it. I heard Ben Ben Carson actually mentioned this in a public speaking engagement. And so, everybody sort of knows about it, but except for the American people. And I think it would be good if the American people understood that these things aren't just rising up or bubbling up from somewhere as a source of just cultural change over time. No, they're designed to take this country down. And that's what's been going on since the 60s, sir.
Look, I'm glad you raised that point, Tom, because it is a very patient, long-time strategy by the American left and the communist movement in this country, which has indoctrinated professors who are indoctrinating students who have seeded the ground over time. It's been a very long process to get to the point where we are now, where people are devaluing the family, devaluing life, devaluing relationships, devaluing the gender binary, devaluing science in the name of science. It's very wild to watch, but also there is a pushback too. There are more and more parents who are rejecting the insanity. There are more and more kids who are rejecting the insanity. And I got to say again, like a buddy of mine has texted me from over in Louisiana that Jeff Landry, the governor there, has set up a school choice program, and the Senate there doesn't want to fund it, doesn't want to add funding to it. In Georgia here, we've got Republicans in our legislature who don't want to expand school choice. Y'all, in public schools around the country, teachers are indoctrinating kids. Don't say it can't happen in your backyard. It is happening in your backyard. You just don't know about it. And the best way to get kids out of it is to provide them opportunities to go to different schools. And school choice is one of the best ways to do that. So double down on school choice, please. Now, double down on getting a tankless water heater. Yank your tank out of your house, your tank of a water heater that fills up. Then you got to spend the energy to keep the water hot at all times. With Rinnai, your water gets hot when you use the water heater, and it works great. It's a tankless water heater. What it does is it runs through. Ours has propane. You can do natural gas as well. And when the water flows through, the flame heats the water, and you get unlimited supply of hot water. You do not have to fill up a tank of a water heater. So you save money that way, not filling up the tank. Then you don't have the gas or the electric constantly having to keep the water hot. Our power bill went down when we got our tankless water heater from Rinnai. Yours will too. And our kids never fight over hot water because we have an unlimited supply of it. Last night, my son and I were both in the shower separately before people make jokes. Him upstairs, me downstairs at the same time. The water pressure is a challenge in our house, but the hot water not. Go to talkingtankless.com and find out more. talkingtankless.com.